Chapter 1727. The elder standing by the side took a careful look at Zhou Xian and immediately asked, "Overlord, has student Yiqing Luo really sealed the King of Darkness?" Just as he finished his words, Zhou Xian's arrogance had obviously subsided by quite a bit. Following closely behind the principal were the various academies' elders and elders, as well as numerous students. After all, the nine-tailed fox had created such a huge commotion and instantly attracted everyone's attention. When everyone rushed over, they heard the elder's question. Everyone was shocked. King of Darkness? After the Dark Force's huge actions in the Blaze Nest. Basically, everyone present knew about the Dark Coalition. Naturally, they also vaguely knew about the King of Darkness who looked down on the world and wanted to conquer Nirvana Realm and even the Upper Realm. After that, the King of Darkness was sealed in the Dark Sacred Region by the Upper Realm. The King of Darkness had been thinking of ways to remove the Sacred Region's seal. This was the reason why the Dark Forces kept on collecting young cultivators' souls. When they heard that Yiqing Luo actually sealed the King of Darkness, everyone's first reaction was disbelief. Yiqing Luo was just a 15-year-old young lady. No matter how heaven-defying her innate talent was, it was absolutely not comparable to the old devil from 10,000 years ago. But Zhou Xian's suppressed voice was heard from the room. "Are you doubting me?" The elder shuddered, knowing that Zhou Xian's mood was definitely not good because of Yiqing Luo's injury. He immediately knelt on the ground with a plop. "Overlord, we don't dare." The principal immediately understood why Zhou Xian's pressure suddenly soared. Because when he said that he had sealed the King of Darkness, he totally didn't express any concern for Yiqing Luo, and also linked the credit of the King of Darkness being sealed to Yiqing Luo. The principal had yet to open his mouth to salvage the situation. Xiang, who was standing beside the Heavenly Academy, couldn't hold it in any longer. "Overlord, we naturally don't dare to doubt your words, but Yiqing Luo is just a cultivator who had just stepped into Earth Profound Realm. No matter how strong her innate talent is, she's still a child. How could it be possible?" He didn't finish his words. But the meaning behind his words was already clear. Indeed, they didn't dare to doubt the Overlord's words. But the Overlord insisted that the King of Darkness was sealed by Yiqing Luo. 90% of the people present wouldn't believe it. Perhaps it was Dizun who had destroyed the Dark Forces. Then push the credit to Yiqing Luo? No one dared to speak, but they all silently agreed with Xiang's words. Zhou Xian raised his frosty peach blossom eyes, and that gaze seemed to be condensed with 10,000 layers of ice, freezing everything in this world. The cold air pressure seemed to freeze the air. Everyone could not help but feel nervous. Just when everyone thought that Zhou Xian was going to fly into a rage. However, Zhou Xian shifted his line of sight and looked towards the bed, at the pale-faced and unconscious young lady. His ribs are broken and his body is covered with wounds of various sizes. The residual mysterious yin qi needs to be removed in time. Affected by the soul-assimilating curse, soul damage. His profound heart jade was almost dug out. There's a lot of blood. His profound heart jade has loosened and his heart is affected. Word by word, he described Yiqing Luo's injuries extremely clearly. Listening, it seemed as though she was telling Ghost Doctor about Yiqing Luo's mother's condition. Chapter 1728. Zhou Xian's voice was extremely calm. But under that calmness, there was a storm that caused people's hearts to tremble. When the crowd heard that, their hearts trembled. They also understood Zhou Xian's meaning. The Overlord was feeling indignant for his beloved lady. For Nirvana Realm, for the various academies, Yiqing Luo risked her life alone. In the end, she almost lost her life and came back riddled with injuries. As for the various academies, there wasn't even a single word of concern. All they could think about was whether the Dark Forces were really destroyed. Hearing Zhou Xian listing out the injuries on Yiqing Luo's body, word by word. Every time he said a part, the crowd's heart would twitch faintly. Not long later, the female students' soft whimpers were heard from the surroundings. The various academies' directors and elders looked at each other in dismay. Their hearts were filled with admiration for this 15-year-old young lady. But they still couldn't believe that a 15-year-old youngster was able to reseal the King of Darkness who looked down on the world 10,000 years ago. One must know that 10,000 years ago, it was the people from the Upper Realm who came down and barely managed to seal the King of Darkness. Even now, the King of Darkness was still sealed in the Sacred Region. Even if the King of Darkness's consciousness was left in this world, it could easily exterminate Yiqing Luo. Otherwise, why would the people from the dark forces be so obedient, going around looking for young cultivator's soul, as food for the King of Darkness to break the seal? Student Yiqing Luo has a strong presence of the King of Darkness. Suddenly, a steady voice was heard from the door. Following that, a young man dressed in a black robe walked in with an air of seniority. Beside him, there was an evil-looking young man dressed in white robe. The moment they saw them, the various academies immediately opened up a path and greeted respectfully. Master Gui Wu, Instructor Zhou Gui Wu walked directly into the spacious room. The entire room was filled with devil classes students and a few people from the headquarters. Gui Wu frowned as his vision fell onto Yiqing Luo, who was covered in blood. The King of Darkness consciousness was indeed sealed by her. Gui Wu's pupils contracted slightly as he stared at Yiqing Luo. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. This classmate can create countless miracles. If it's her. If you say that she can ascend to the upper realm in the future, I will also believe it. These words caused 10,000 ripples on the surface of the ocean. Who is Gui Wu? Gui Wu was a famous martial arts fanatic. His strength was unfathomable. His martial prowess was unparalleled. More importantly, the profound practitioners who had been judged by him had never been wrong. He said that young profound practitioners were dragons and phoenixes among men. That person would definitely become a respectable high-level profound practitioner in the future. He said that young profound practitioners only had talent and would never amount to anything in the future. That person would definitely become the lowest slave in the future. Even if the person who was judged as a failure had a strong background. None of them could escape Gui Wu's prophecy. Of course, this prophecy was only based on Gui Wu's several days of guiding the profound practitioners in their training, as well as their innate talent. There was a rumor in the Nirvana realm. Some people didn't believe in heresy and purposely nurtured people who were judged as useless. But no matter how they nurtured them in the end, it still proved Gui Wu's prophecy. Gradually, Gui Wu's prophecy towards the profound practitioners became the mouth of a god. This was also the reason why the various academies who were participating in the exchange were so excited when they heard that Master Gui Wu would be coming to train the students. Everyone hoped to get a sentence from Gui Wu. But now Gui Wu actually had such a high evaluation towards a 15-year-old young lady. Chapter 1729. With Ghost Marshall's appearance, everyone believed more than half of it. After that, Ghost Doctor, who had been silently administering acupuncture for Yiqing Luo's injuries, spoke in an icy cold voice, suppressing a thick anger. This lass had forcefully broken through the dark incantation soul-absorbing incantation, and the damage to her soul is rather huge. F***K. Ghost Doctor, don't scare me. I only have this one sugar daddy and I'm counting on her to support me for the rest of my life. You have to cure my lass. When God Thief heard that, he wailed anxiously. When the surrounding crowd heard the two words Ghost Doctor, all of them shuddered. Ghost Doctor? That ghost hand doctor? Able to turn a dead person into a living person, able to turn a handicapped person into a healthy person, able to turn trash into a genius. The various academies' directors present were even more shocked by this name. One must know that they had expended so much effort to search for this ghost hand doctor, just to invite him to enter their academy. But this ghost doctor finally entered Heavenly Academy and became their alchemist. They had not expected, they actually met Ghost Doctor here. Hearing Ghost Doctor's words, everyone completely believed in Zhou Xian's words. At this moment, everyone's vision fell onto God Thief. This old man dressed like a nouveau riche. But they all remembered that Ghost Doctor was with him, holding hands as they rushed to Yiqing Luo's room. This showed the relationship between the two of them. It showed that this nouveau riche old man's status was definitely not low. After that, this nouveau riche old man treated Yiqing Luo as his sugar daddy and even supported him for the rest of his life? What identity did Yiqing Luo have? The people around him were all King big shots. Moreover, look at Ghost Doctor. When he was treating Yiqing Luo, he was so serious and his eyes were filled with worry. It showed that Ghost Doctor was extremely concerned about Yiqing Luo. One must know that it was rumored that Ghost Doctor was someone who was especially afraid of trouble and he only knew how to refine pills continuously. Towards things like treating illnesses and injuries he had no interest at all. It was also rumored that when Heavenly Dean met with an ambush and almost lost his life, he begged Ghost Doctor to save him, but Ghost Doctor used the excuse of disturbing him while he was refining pills and directly kicked him out. But now, this Ghost Doctor, who was afraid of trouble, came all the way from West Continent to South Continent, trying his best to treat Yiqing Luo. This Yiqing Luo. It was simply too astonishing. Taking another look at the group of people surrounding Yiqing Luo. Which one of them was not a dragon or phoenix among men? Which one of them was not the center of attention? Which one of them was not of noble status? Some people in the venue expressed their agreement. The amount of information they had received today was too much, too much. It was also at this moment that everyone remembered the name of the hero who saved the students of the various academies and sealed the remaining consciousness of the King of Darkness. Night. Ting. Full. A 15-year-old girl. He used to be the young master of the Three Springs sect and was famous in the Nirvana realm with his useless body. At the mention of it, it was a mocking sneer. Now that she had been reborn, her strength had once again become famous. When mentioned, there were many praises and respect. The treatment lasted for 3 days. Those people from various academies, after admiring Yiqing Luo from the bottom of their hearts, were chased back by Zhou Xian Kuli. The students of Devil class were also chased out of the room. Only a few were left who could help. Yiqing Luo remained unconscious for 3 days. Zhou Xian accompanied her for 3 days, not eating, not drinking, not sleeping or resting. Ghost Doctor had been helping Yiqing Luo to stabilize her soul in these 3 days, treating the complicated wounds on her body. Chapter 1730. God Thief immediately supported Ghost Doctor. How is it? Is that lass all right? Ghost Doctor waved his hand weakly. Under God Thief's support, he sat on a soft chair by the side. Everyone's gazes in the room all turned towards Ghost Doctor. Yan Xiaoyi brought a cup of tea and passed it to Ghost Doctor. Ghost Doctor drank a mouthful of tea and slowly raised his eyes. His chilly eyes looked at the dispirited Zhou Xian as his voice was hoarse. Her physique is very shocking. Plus on the way here you've given her a simple treatment. The external injuries on her will be completely healed within these few days. After hearing Ghost Doctor's words, the people in the room didn't feel happy at all. Instead their expressions turned grave. Yiqing Luo's external injuries weren't the most serious. The most serious was her internal injuries. As expected, at the next instance, Ghost Doctor continued, her soul suffered a serious injury and her soul was almost absorbed by the soul assimilating incantation. But, luckily this lass's willpower is firm and she managed to reunite her soul with herself. Looking at everyone's anxious expressions, Ghost Doctor's vision floated towards Yiqing Luo. Her soul has already been restored, but what? Zhou Xian's brows creased tightly as his tone revealed a sense of urgency. His slender long hand held one of Yiqing Luo's hand. His fingertips gently caressed the back of her hand. In his heart he suddenly recalled what Feng Ling told him in the dark sacred region. Ghost Doctor paused after every word. This time when she went against the King of Darkness, her profound jade heart had been depleted too much, and if she's not careful, it would cause the profound jade heart to backfire. This profound jade heart of hers. Ghost Doctor paused as he looked at the surroundings. The people in the room were Ghost Doctor, God Thief, Old Man Gui Yu, Zhou Xian, Long Yunzhan, Yan Xiaoyi and a few other devil class students. After ascertaining that there were no outsiders, he then spoke in a deep voice, "You should already know about it." Zhou Xian nodded his head solemnly. This lass's profound jade heart had been corroded by profound yin qi previously. Her profound jade heart has traces of being purified. Zhou Xian nodded his head as he narrated the incident of Yiqing Luo being controlled and almost losing control in a concise and comprehensive manner. The purification this time should have happened during the battle between this lass and the King of Darkness. Her profound heart jade was forcefully dug out, causing the profound heart jade to release its protective ability on its own. As a result, the profound yin energy within the profound heart jade was purified. This might be the true reason why this lass had the ability to seal the King of Darkness. However, her own strength was unable to withstand the power that the profound heart jade gave her. Over a long period of time and over a long period of energy consumption, the girl's body would become increasingly unable to bear the burden of the profound jade heart. People with weak willpower would probably be swallowed by the profound jade heart. And for a person like this girl whose willpower is too firm, and whose profound heart jade also doesn't have the intention to devour its master, this kind of situation will be created. The ghost doctor's explanation made everyone feel a little confused. But Zhou Xian understood. His expression became increasingly grave. Right now Lil Luo, what other problems does the profound heart jade have? The problem isn't really a big problem, but according to this last abnormal innate talent, there might be a little problem. Ghost Doctor deliberated over his words as he spoke with some uncertainty. Her profound jade heart had been overdrawn this time, which led to the profound jade heart to have some unusual reaction, and there's a possibility that it might accelerate this lass's advancement speed. Isn't accelerating advancement speed a good thing? Yan Xiaoyi asked in astonishment when she heard that. Chapter 1731. Las Luo is after all an ordinary person, no one can become a big fatty in one bite. Ghost Doctor explained patiently, advancing too quickly is indeed a good thing for cultivators, but Las Luo's innate talent is already extremely strong. Everyone expressed their agreement on this point. Yiqing Luo was simply like a huge abnormality. That speed of advancement was as though it was free of charge. Their eyeballs almost popped out in minutes. Her current innate talent can allow her to advance from Earth Profound Realm to Sky Profound First Grade in a few short days. But now she can advance a grade in a day. Advance a grade in a day? What kind of joke was that? For ordinary people like them after Earth Profound 5th grade, every grade would take at least 1.5 years. Not to mention Sky Profound Realm. To advance a grade was as difficult as ascending to heaven. Ghost Doctor actually said. Advance a grade in a day? This was 2F** King perverted. She wasn't a human, she was a beast. Yan Xiaoyi and the others clenched their fists as their faces were filled with tears, as they looked at Yiqing Luo as though they were looking at a beast. Sir Ghost Doctor, what you mean is, advancing a grade in a day to Qing Luo is harmful and not beneficial? Long Yunzhan grasped the key point as he asked in a deep voice. The atmosphere instantly turned heavy. Ghost Doctor nodded, just like what I said earlier, advancing a grade in a day, moreover its Sky Profound Realm's profound grade to Las Luo's body, it is not able to contain such thick and dense profound qi. After it exceeds the load that her body can take, even if her profound jade heart is not willing to devour its master, it will eventually be suppressed by the dense profound qi and have no choice but to do so. Everything had to be done step by step. Cultivation was the same. The wonderful thing of ascending to heaven in one step, even if it really happened, would depend on whether one had the ability to enjoy it. The room instantly quietened down. The few of them looked at each other in dismay as their faces revealed a shocked expression. Then Sir Ghost Doctor, how can we restrain Qing Luo's advancement speed? We can only try our best to restore her profound jade heart. Ghost Doctor shook his head helplessly. This was the first time he had met with such a situation. Divine Phoenix profound jade heart, there was only one piece in this world. He had never thought that possessing such a profound heart jade was sometimes not a good thing. Ghost Doctor. Zhou Xian muttered to himself for a moment as his eyes flashed slightly. This lord has a matter which I wish to discuss with you alone. Everyone was taken aback. But he didn't ask any more questions. These few days, as everyone was worried about Yiqing Luo, they were all busy and had no way to eat, drink, relieve themselves or sleep peacefully. Now that he had ascertained that Yiqing Luo had basically recovered, other than the condition of that profound jade heart, there were no other major problems. They left the room first. Zhou Xian took a deep look at the young lady who was sleeping soundly on the bed and slowly released her hand as he walked towards the door. The Ghost Doctor put down her teacup and followed. Holy Pirate and Old Man Gui, you took the prescription from the Ghost Doctor and went to prepare the medicine. The room that was originally full of people suddenly became empty and quiet. At this moment, the unconscious girl who had been lying on the bed suddenly opened her eyes. Her enchanting eyes glowed with brilliance. There wasn't the slightest bit of turbidity and confusion of a person who had just woken up. She had long woken up under Old Man Tsong's call the moment Ghost Doctor stopped his acupuncture. Yiqing Luo didn't know Old Man Tsong's motive for forcefully waking her up. But after she heard the Ghost Doctor's words, she suddenly understood something. Her profound jade heart, because she had forcefully dug it away, wanting to detonate the profound jade heart and perish together with the King of Darkness. Chapter 1732. This matter he had the right to let her know. Therefore Old Man Tsong forcibly woke her up. However, Old Man Song sighed heavily. What this old man wants to say is not this. Not because of the profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo was surprised, but suddenly a white light flashed in front of her. Immediately she saw a ball of white mist rising up, slowly revealing a figure. The white robe was like white mist, illusory, the white hair and white eyebrows of the old man hazy. There was a bit of a sage-like aura. Yiqing Luo was startled. Old Man Song, you can show your spiritual body? All along she could only see Old Man Song inside the azure dew bracelet. She remembered that Old Man Song once said, once he could show his spiritual body and leave the azure dew bracelet. Within 100 meters of her, Old Man Song could move freely. He could also help her fight together. It was like having a little helper and a very powerful helper. In this battle, your body was once again transformed by the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Qi and Qi Yan also fell into a deep sleep and are about to advance. This old man was naturally affected by the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Old Man Song swayed his spiritual body on Yiqing Luo's head. Since Yiqing Luo fainted, he had been desperately cultivating in the azure dew bracelet. Finally, he managed to cultivate his spiritual body. This lass was too easy to mess around. If he didn't cultivate his spiritual body and protect this lass in times of danger, he didn't know how long this lass luck would last. Yiqing Luo didn't expect that this battle actually gave Qi and Qi Yan the opportunity to advance. Even Old Man Song cultivated his spiritual body. It seemed that this injury of hers wasn't in vain. Yes, it's not in vain. Old Man Song rolled his eyes and laughed coldly. This old man wants to see how long you can laugh for. Isn't it just a change in the profound heart jade? One grade a day. I don't believe that I can't conquer my own profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo's slender brows slightly knitted. She also understood the consequences of crazily increasing the grade. But at this point, no matter how worried she was, it was of no use. He might as well make use of this strange movement and fight for his life. He might even be able to conquer the divine phoenix profound heart jade. From then on, he would completely absorb the profound energy brought about by the unusual movement. He thought back to the battle with the King of Darkness. He thought about how even the people of the upper realm coveted his profound heart jade. She couldn't wait to become stronger. She wanted to protect what belonged to her. Furthermore, if this King of Darkness was destroyed, another King of Darkness would appear. The King of Darkness in the Darkness Sanctuary only had 1/10,000th of the King of Darkness's power, yet she, who had not yet transformed because of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, was almost unable to withstand it. She was even almost forced to perish together with the King of Darkness. She was deeply aware of her own insignificance. She wanted to become stronger. He wanted to become stronger. Yiqing Luo's eyes shot out a resolute radiance. Her slender, scarred fingers clenched into a fist. I believe that you can create a miracle, but after you conquer the divine phoenix profound heart jade, I'm afraid your man will run away. Old Man Song looked at Yiqing Luo's resolute eyes and sighed softly. He knew that Yiqing Luo was a stubborn child who wasn't willing to admit defeat easily. He had long guessed that after Yiqing Luo found out about his profound heart jade's strange movement, she would definitely choose to conquer it and not think of ways to avoid it. Man. Yiqing Luo frowned. What do you mean? Chapter 1733. Your man is going to run away with another woman soon. Old Man Song floated one round on top of her head as he smacked his lips. If you don't stop him, don't cry to me later. Yiqing Luo's lips curled sinisterly. If he dares to run away with another woman, I will chop off his 3 legs. Old Man Song looked at Yiqing Luo's strange smile. His eyes revealed a murderous glint as he shivered. Where did the 3 legs come from? Yiqing Luo sneered. It can only be understood but not explained. As he said that, he let out a meaningful sneer. No matter how stupid a person was, hearing this sentence and looking at Yiqing Luo's expression, he could roughly guess what the so-called 3rd leg was referring to. Old Man Song instinctively shrunk his legs as he coughed a few times. Just based on you want to chop off the Overlord's legs? Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at him. He won't run. What if it's for you? Old Man Song looked at her confident look and couldn't bear to pour cold water on her. But if he didn't pour cold water on her, Zhou Xian might really make a decision that he shouldn't have. Yiqing Luo's smile instantly turned cold as her eyes turned solemn. What do you mean? There's a way to stabilize your profound jade heart. Old Man Song said. Yiqing Luo's brows twitched as she recalled what they had discussed in the room earlier, when Diamo Xian suddenly wanted to have a private chat with Ghost Doctor. She narrowed her eyes. What way? Calming Pearl. Old Man Song said in a deep voice. This is also a god relic. A god relic that can stabilize a cultivator's profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo muttered softly, Calming Pearl. The effect of the Calming Pearl is usually to suppress those cultivators who are too anxious to advance, which leads to qi deviation. Old Man Song explained, if the Calming Pearl is in your hands, your profound jade heart will be stabilized and suppressed to a similar level as your own profound energy. So, someone used the Calming Pearl to make a deal with Zhou Xian? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed a sly glint. Old Man Song choked on his words. Yes. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her pink lips curled into a sneer. The person with the tranquil bead, is it Feng Ling? The corner of Old Man Song's mouth twitched. He still hadn't said anything. Couldn't he have some meaning to his existence? Did he say it without any suspense? So easy to guess? Yiqing Luo could tell what Old Man Song was thinking and laughed lightly. Before I fainted, other than Zhou Xian, the only person I saw was Feng Ling. Yiqing Luo looked at her body, which was wrapped up like a mummy. With my injuries like this, Zhou Xian must have stayed by my side for the past few days. It's impossible for him to see anyone else. So, aside from wind chimes who I met in Dark Sacred Region, I can't think of anyone else. Moreover, Old Man Song had also said that it was a woman. Moreover, it was a woman who would let Diamo Xian escape. Among the women who coveted Diamo Xian's beauty, other than Feng Ling, that woman, there seemed to be no other woman who dared to negotiate with Diamo Xian. Feng Ling actually had the tranquility orb in her hands. However, even if Wind Chime really had something that she got from Wind Chime, she didn't feel at ease using it. It's her. Old Man Song took a look at the calm Yiqing Luo as his heart was filled with worry. He simply repeated the conversation between Diamo Xian and Feng Ling after Yiqing Luo had fainted. Following that, he sized up Yiqing Luo's expression. He discovered that she was as calm as usual. Chapter 1734. Lass, aren't you worried? Old Man Song's spirit body swayed to Yiqing Luo's side and sat down by her bed. Yiqing Luo shook her head. Zhou Xian won't. Her smile was calm and so was her tone. Her confident tone made the expression on Old Man Song's face gradually show a trace of amiability. He laughed lowly. And, since Feng Ling dares to use that thing to threaten Zhou Xian, then, that thing, I must have it. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, swaying and swaying, rippling a trace of evil smile. Old Man Song was stunned and suddenly shook his head helplessly. You two know each other too well. Yiqing Luo raised a bright smile. Because, we trust each other. You and him are really a match made in heaven. Old Man Song was dazed by Yiqing Luo's bright smile for a moment. In his mind, the scene of Diamo Xian carrying Yiqing Luo, who was covered in blood, and walking out of the Dark Sacred Region appeared. He remembered at that time he said in the Azure Dew bracelet, what that woman said is true, only the heart-setting pearl can stabilize the girl's profound jade heart. This Lord knows. Diamo Xian's voice was calm. If you know, why refuse? Old Man Song could see that Diamo Xian really cared about Yiqing Luo. But he refused so bluntly. Wasn't he worried that it would agitate Feng Ling and destroy the heart-setting pearl or something? Diamo Xian lowered his eyes and gazed deeply at the pale person in his arms. Because she won't agree. Old Man Song had no words to refute. Indeed, Yiqing Luo would not agree. For a heart-setting pearl, she lost her beloved man. This kind of thing, Yiqing Luo would rather die than agree. If this lord really agreed to Feng Ling's request, it would be the real harm to little Luo. Diamo Xian's voice was soft with a trace of trembling. This lord will absolutely not do anything to hurt little Luo in the name of love. That words carried a deep tenderness. Even Old Man Song, who had long sealed his heart for thousands of years, couldn't help but be touched. Old Man Song sighed softly. As an elder, Diamo Xian's attention and concern towards Yiqing Luo made him feel gratified and happy for her. But as the Azure Dew bracelet's guardian, as Yiqing Luo's contractor, he didn't wish for any accidents to happen to Yiqing Luo's body. He had to obtain the heart-calming pearl. Lil Luo needs the heart-calming bead. I will find a way to get it. Diamo Xian seemed to have guessed Old Man Song's thoughts. More importantly, Lil Luo will definitely. want to personally obtain what she wants. His little Luo was never one to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. She had never needed to hide under his wings and rely on him to survive. Because of this, he let Feng Ling go. Windling was not qualified to make a deal with him. If he wanted to obtain the tranquility bead, he would have to find a way to obtain it. He could have taken it from Wenqim in the darkness sacred region. Even if the Imperial Palace's granny appeared in person, he would not give them any face. But Zhou Xian understood Yiqing Luo. If Yiqing Luo knew that the tranquil pearl was in Feng Ling's hands, she must want to personally obtain the tranquility orb from Feng Ling. Old man Song regained his senses from his memories. His kind and gentle eyes quietly looked at Yiqing Luo. You all first recuperate well from your injuries. During this period of time, I will try my best to suppress your profound jade heart's abnormal movements. Yiqing Luo smiled as she nodded. I know. However, in the depths of her smile, there was a trace of cold glint hidden. Feng Ling wanted to kill her and even wanted to snatch her man? Chapter 1735. The news of Yiqing Luo's awakening had spread throughout the entire South Continent. In just a short span of 2 days, Sky First Residence's courtyard was filled with various academies' directors, elders and students. The gifts piled up could fill up a room. Especially the various academy students, their attitude towards Yiqing Luo was filled with passion. They simply couldn't wait to worship Yiqing Luo like a fairy. In the various academy students' hearts, after everything that happened in the blazing flame nest, Yiqing Luo was already the 9 heavens' mysterious fairy. She even used her own power to seal the King of Darkness's consciousness from 10,000 years ago. For Nirvana Realm's safety, she almost paid the price of her life. This kind of young lady was exactly a fairy. The Academy's directors, no matter if it was for the sake of appearances, or to build a relationship with Yiqing Luo, of course, the most important thing was to build a relationship with those few powerhouses behind Yiqing Luo. All of them fawned on her. Could be said that this time, Yiqing Luo was completely famous. And she was famous in the entire Nirvana realm. Looking at the hustle and bustle outside the house. Looking at Tong Ziqing and the rest, who were busy moving those extremely valuable gifts, Yiqing Luo pinched her brows tiredly. If you're tired, let them go back first. Long Yunzhan acutely noticed Yiqing Luo's expression as he spoke with concern. These gifts we don't. These are all exchanged with my life. I almost died in the dark sacred region. Just a few words of thanks. What's the use? Yiqing Luo shook her head as she yawned. These things are merely external objects. Don't disturb your peaceful rest. Long Yunzhan frowned slightly, feeling slightly displeased with Yiqing Luo's attitude. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at him. I've made such a huge contribution this time, saving so many people from various academies. The things that they sent over, no matter how bad, would not be lower than the miraculous grade. Moreover, there are so many precious and rare medicinal herbs. Why wouldn't I want these things that are sent to me for free? So what if it's external objects? If there weren't these external objects, we would all die on the streets. Your body. Long Yunzhan knew that he couldn't reason with Yiqing Luo, so he could only sigh helplessly. No problem. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. Even if she wanted to recuperate, she did not have the mood to recuperate, nor could she settle down to recuperate. He might as well meet the people from the various academies. Not only would they receive all kinds of valuable gifts, but they would also be able to show their faces in front of the various major forces. In the future, when they went to other continents, they would at least have a backer to rely on. One had to know that when one was outside, one had to rely on one's friends and thighs. More importantly, she wanted to kill time. She wanted to occupy all her time with busyness. That way she wouldn't think about it anymore. That peerless man. She would no longer have the urge to strangle that man who only knew how to flirt with her. After chatting with old man Song that day, she was, after all, still an injured patient. Not long after, she fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up, Kitty Li and Yan Xiaoyi were sitting at the head of the bed. Their exclamations attracted the attention of the people outside the door. Long Yunzhan, Qiao Jin, Tong Ziqing, Mo Yuing. After that, there was Holy Pirate, Ghost Doctor, Ghost Warrior, and Zoemo. However, the peerless purple figure was nowhere to be seen. She was slightly astonished and wanted to ask Zhou Xian. But she saw Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Ziqing's evasive gaze. Chapter 1736. Wait for him to return? Wait his grandpa. She was lying on the bed with serious injuries and was still unconscious. He actually left just like that. Left. Hadn't he guarded her for 3 days and 3 nights without eating, drinking or sleeping? Just a little bit more. Couldn't he have persevered a little more? Was it the way she woke up was wrong? Or was it the way she woke up was wrong? The correct way shouldn't be when she woke up from serious injuries and saw her beloved man sitting by the bedside with a haggard look. Then she would touch the stubble on his chin, feeling heartache? How romantic and beautiful was this? She would be so touched that she would devote her life to him. But unfortunately, such a beautiful and romantic plot when it came to her turned into this. Even if Yiqing Luo usually looked like a man. But in front of Zhou Xian she was still a little lady. Women more or less had that little bit of romantic feelings. For example, she had almost lost her life this time. Of course she hoped that she could open her eyes and see Zhou Xian by her side. Although she knew clearly that Zhou Xian would suddenly leave after guarding her for 3 days and 3 nights, there must be an extremely important matter which required him to settle personally. But she was feeling unhappy. She just wanted to throw a tantrum at Zhou Xian. The bustling noise beside her ears made Yiqing Luo retract her soul trace from her memories. Yiqing Luo shook her head, throwing that wicked man out of her mind. Yan Shaoyi and the others stood by the side, and when they saw Yiqing Luo's expression, it was the same as yesterday when she heard that Zhou Xian wasn't around. A flash of desolation flashed past. They all sighed one after another. And no one tried to dissuade Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo. Long Yunzhan's eyes were filled with worry. Your body. Suddenly his sleeves were tugged. Long Yunzhan glanced sideways and saw Tong Ziqing tugging his sleeves lightly, shaking her head at him. Long Yunzhan stopped his voice. Anyone could tell the reason why Yiqing Luo kept on receiving people from various academies. They were helpless too. The overlord was obviously so worried about Qing Luo. Why did he have to leave on the same day when Qing Luo woke up? How could it be so coincidental? Luckily, Ghost Doctor had already ascertained that Yiqing Luo's external injuries were almost completely healed, and her internal injuries would only need to recuperate for a few more days before she could jump around again. That was why they didn't forcefully stop Yiqing Luo's actions. It was already the evening of the same day. The sky gradually darkened. Only then did the number of people in House Tian gradually decrease. The students of the Devil class were packing up the presents. The dean and vice dean of the general hospital also walked into room 1 with gifts of thanks. Anai Rupin led the 2 principals into the room. Their faces suddenly stiffened. Soon after, he looked around the room and his nose twitched as if he was smelling something. Yiqing Luo was puzzled and was about to ask. The strange expression on the president's face changed as he smiled amiably. Student Yiqing Luo, are you feeling better? Yiqing Luo was about to get up but was stopped by the director. You're not feeling well, so you don't have to bother about the formalities. Yiqing Luo looked at the general courtyard's smiling face and knew that this director probably needed her help with something. Student Yiqing Luo is our main academy's big hero, the hero who saved the various academies. In future when she sees us, there's no need for her to bow. Vice President chimed in from the side. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Towards these 2 principals, Yiqing Luo didn't have any antipathy towards them. The both of them were truly thinking for the academy. They were also sincerely restricting every academy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to request for Master Ghost Marshal to provide special training for the students who were here to take part in the academy's exchange meet. Chapter 1737. The principal and vice principal seemed to have expected that Yiqing Luo would not beat around the bush. Hearing her words, the 2 of them exchanged glances. Following that, the 2 smiling faces faced Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo. Why did she feel a chill down her spine? Why did he feel that the seemingly amiable and friendly smiles of these 2 were hiding a strong sense of conspiracy? Student Yiqing Luo, can we have a private chat? The vice principal asked with a smile. Yiqing Luo looked at Anai Ruopan who was behind the vice principal and shook her head at her. Anai Rupin bowed at the 2 elders and left the room. She even closed the door on her way out. In the room there were only the 2 principals and the trio of Yiqing Luo left. Student Yiqing Luo, are you interested in joining the main courtyard? The principal didn't beat around the bush as he asked directly. His smiling eyes were filled with admiration towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was stunned. She had not expected the main courtyard's principal to raise such an invitation to her. Join the main courtyard? What kind of place was the main courtyard? That was the place that controlled the entire Nirvana realm and various academies. She was just a 15-year-old young lass who had yet to graduate. Join the main courtyard? Were you sure it wasn't a joke? The vice principal saw Yiqing Luo's misgivings as he smiled amiably. Of course, we are not asking you to join the main courtyard immediately. If you want to join now, we are naturally happy to do so. As for your young age and the fact that you have yet to graduate, there's no need to worry about that. Your performance in the Blazing Flame Nest was witnessed by all the students from the various academies. Even Master Gui Wu and the 5 instructors were full of praises for you. Moreover, you saved the students from the various academies, saved the main courtyard's reputation, and with your own strength, you sealed the King of Darkness's consciousness completely, and even persuaded the Overlord to help in exterminating the dark forces. This is all your credit. It's you who saved the main courtyard, saved the Nirvana realm. His every word was filled with indescribable pride. The gaze he used to look at Yiqing Luo was filled with admiration. Don't worry about your qualifications. As long as you nod your head, the various academies, including the main courtyard, will absolutely not have any objections. The vice principal continued. Looking at director and vice director's hopeful gaze, Yiqing Luo rubbed her nose as she gave a few dry laughs. The main academy was indeed the place where countless deans and elders of the academy would fight to enter. It was also the dream of countless students. But she couldn't spend her entire life in the academy or the headquarters. The limitations were too small. She also had a group of brothers. In the future, she was bound to make a name for herself. If he confined himself to the general courtyard, she didn't get any more growth. Student Yiqing Luo. The director looked at the gleam in Yiqing Luo's eyes as he sighed softly. How would he not be able to tell Yiqing Luo's ambition? How could they not tell that Yiqing Luo's future would not be limited to the headquarters? She was an eagle spreading its wings. There was a wider world. There was a more dazzling and long-term future. But a glint flashed across the dean's eyes as he recalled the words that Gui Wu had said. This girl was very likely to surpass the limit of the Nirvana realm and step into the plane of the upper realm. The expression on the director's face became more resolute. Student Yiqing Luo, are you interested in the position of the general courtyard's director? This time Yiqing Luo was completely astonished. She blinked her eyes in astonishment. The general courtyard's director? The director actually wanted to give his position to her? How much did he want her to enter the general courtyard? Chapter 1738. Lass, don't be too surprised. Vice President chuckled as he caressed Yiqing Luo's head. In this short period of time, you don't need to sit on the president's position. You can enter the headquarters as the successor, so don't have too much pressure. This was called not having too much pressure? Wasn't the pressure shocking enough? Successor to the headquarters president? Could she reject it? Lass, don't belittle the power of the headquarters. A sharp light flashed in the depths of the dean's eyes as he slowly enticed. If you enter the headquarters and become its successor in the future, no matter where you go, as long as you are the successor of the headquarters, you can mobilize the forces of any academy to fight for you. The vice president added, including the students of any academy. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. This was indeed a temptation. Nirvana realm had 4 continents and each continent had at least hundreds of academies. If she could mobilize any school's power, that meant that no matter which corner of the world she went to, as long as she was in Nirvana realm, she could call for help anytime. President and vice president smiled at each other. This lass had a big heart, giving her a strong backing so that she could rest assured and charge forward without any hesitation, growing to a shocking extent. It was indeed the right choice. Lass, just agree to it. This is beneficial to you. Vice President took the opportunity to say. Unknowingly, their address towards her had changed from student Yiqing Luo to lass. Yiqing Luo laughed secretly. These 2 old men were really planning for the General Institute all the time. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't reply, President and Vice President were getting anxious. To ordinary students, this was a joyous occasion. Even if it was other academies' presidents, they would probably abandon the academy and run over to the headquarters when they heard this news. Why did it fall on Yiqing Luo? Why did they feel a deep sense of disdain? Yiqing Luo despised the position of the headquarters successor? Such a huge temptation was placed in front of her. How could she despise it? Just as the president and vice president were in a dilemma, the silent Yiqing Luo finally opened her mouth. Entering the headquarters, it's not impossible. Upon hearing that there was hope, the vice school head's eyes lit up. You agree? Yiqing Luo shook her head. As you all know, other than being a student of the Heavenly Academy, I am also the young matriarch of the Three Springs sect. The vice principal and principal were stunned. I'm still the vice captain of the World Mercenary Group. I still have my group of brothers. If I become the successor of the General Institute, I will be irresponsible to them. Will you rest assured in letting such an irresponsible person become the successor of the General Institute? Yiqing Luo's words made the principal and vice principal speechless momentarily. What Yiqing Luo said was indeed reasonable. If he became the successor of the General Courtyard, she had to focus all her attention on the General Hospital. What about the Three Springs sect? What about the World Group? Making Yiqing Luo give up Three Springs sect and the World Group, choosing the headquarters. They would probably be worried again. In the future, would this girl give up on the headquarters for other reasons? With this thought in mind, the expressions of the vice school heads changed slightly. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile. I have an idea, but it depends on whether the two directors agree to it or not. What idea? The vice principal looked at Yiqing Luo in unison. Chapter 1739. The World Group's vice group leader? Take up residence? President and vice president were stunned. They had not expected Yiqing Luo to raise such a request. You can just give me the status of an elder to take up residence. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she didn't see the shock on the two presidents' faces as she continued. This way, since I'm a member of your headquarters, I have not abandoned the World Group. Pausing for a moment, she gave an innocent smile. More importantly, not only can the headquarters win over a talent like me, you can also win over my brothers in the World Group. Following that, she raised her head as she blinked her innocent and pure eyes. Both presidents, do you feel that my method is awesome? President. Vice President. Their faces turned green and white. His face twitched uncontrollably. Awesome? To her, of course it was awesome. But to the headquarters there was no benefit at all. They gave Yiqing Luo the promise of being the successor because they had their eyes on Yiqing Luo's potential. This lass, her innate talent was high, her character was good, and she had such a strong backing behind her. If she were to become the successor of the General Institute, the strength of the General Institute would definitely rise. More importantly, in the future Yiqing Luo really fulfilled Gui Wu's prophecy. She rose to the upper realm. Their headquarters would also have an awesome character from the upper realm, solidifying their status in the Nirvana realm. This plan was well thought out by them. But Yiqing Luo totally had no intention to follow along with them. The difference between the elder and the successor was huge. The elder who was stationed could leave the headquarters anytime and anywhere. Furthermore, if they really wanted to take up residence, what was the point of bringing along the World Group? They were all a bunch of stinky brats. Their status in the world had not even stabilized yet. If they were to take up residence, they should represent Three Springs sect to show their sincerity, right? No matter what, Three Springs sect represented the entire West continent. This lass could actually put on a serious face, innocently saying that this method was awesome. Looking at the dean and vice dean's ever-changing expressions, Zhou Xian could not help but sigh. Yiqing Luo's smile was like a flower as she blinked her pure eyes and spoke in an extremely serious tone. Of course, I will represent the World Group to take up residence in the headquarters, so the treatment I will enjoy will be the same as what you gave me previously. The vice president spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. This girl, is she really only 15 years old? He was completely sinister and cunning to the point of devouring people without spitting out the bones. He brought a bunch of unknown youngsters to settle in, and he even had to enjoy the rights and privileges of an heir. How much confidence did Yiqing Luo have to be able to say such words in such a serious manner? One had to know that not everyone could enter the headquarters. He wanted to enter the headquarters and become a member of the headquarters. They had to go through countless tests, and their comprehensive strength in all aspects had to reach the standard. From Yiqing Luo's words, why did it feel that their main courtyard was the entrance of the vegetable market? However, this girl's arrogant and egotistical manner made it hard for anyone to hate her. Instead, he had an inexplicable urge to trust her. Somehow he felt that Yiqing Luo would make such a solemn vow to raise such a request. He would definitely repay them with equal benefits. She was just a 15-year-old girl. It gave them an indescribable feeling of trust. This last, it was really poisonous. The principal and vice principal's emotions were stirred up by Yiqing Luo until it became extremely complicated. Originally he thought that after mentioning about the successor, Yiqing Luo would definitely agree readily. He had not expected Yiqing Luo to demand such an exorbitant price. Chapter 1740. After hesitating for some time, the principal rubbed his hands together as he tried to probe. Lass, since we've already made up our minds, I have a question and you have to answer me honestly. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Principal, please ask. Imperial Tutor prophesied that the descent of the Blazing Flame Nest's divine object would cause numerous cultivators to perish in the Blazing Flame Nest. As the principal spoke, his gaze was fixated on Yiqing Luo, not letting go of any changes in her expression. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she gave a sweet smile. And I've heard of it. But, ever since you entered the Blazing Flame Nest, Imperial Tutor said that the divine object's presence had already disappeared. The principal cleared his throat as he continued. That's right. The principal was just guessing. The divine object which Imperial Tutor prophesied was already in Yiqing Luo's hands. After all, this lass had created too many miracles. Even if they told him that she had really contracted the divine object which Imperial Tutor prophesied, they wouldn't be surprised. He only wanted to hear it from Yiqing Luo's own mouth. After all, the divine object which made various powerhouses and numerous cultivators risk their lives to get it. If it really fell into Yiqing Luo's hands, towards the request which Yiqing Luo had raised earlier, they could add a few more points of consideration. Yiqing Luo's pupils expanded as she put on a shocked expression. The divine object disappeared? Yiqing Luo's look made the vice principal's hopeful expression change slightly. It looked like the divine object had not fallen into Yiqing Luo's hands. Then, why did the divine object's presence in the Blazing Flame Nest disappear? Yiqing Luo restrained her gaze as she smiled slightly. She didn't want to expose the fact that Vermilion Bird was the divine object in the Blazing Flame Nest. Lass, how about this? Let us consider for a few days and it won't delay your return to Heavenly Academy. We'll give you an answer during these few days of recuperation. The principal sighed lightly as he said helplessly. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved as she smiled as she nodded her head sweetly. Just like a 15-year-old young lady what she should look like. But Yiqing Luo's earlier words simply couldn't make the principal and vice principal think of her as an innocent and naive young lady. Towards this matter, Yiqing Luo wouldn't intentionally press for an answer. After all, her request was not only ridiculous in the eyes of the General Hospital, but even she herself felt that it was ridiculous. If the dean and the vice-dean agreed, she was the one who was flattered. If she had said that she was representing the Three Springs sect's young sect master to enter the main courtyard, then, perhaps the dean of the General Hospital had just agreed. But, Three Springs sect, her scum father's Three Springs sect. She really didn't want to be involved in anything at all. Moreover, the World Group was more reliable than Three Springs sect no matter what. At least in the future. The World Group was the #1 mercenary group in Nirvana Realm. Yiqing Luo collected her thoughts and suddenly thought of something as she asked with a smile. That's right, Principal, where are the traitors of our Heavenly Academy being locked up? The vice principal was still immersed in Yiqing Luo's conditions, and when he suddenly heard Yiqing Luo's question, he had yet to react in time. Zhou Xian and Zhou Xian? The vice principal came back to his senses. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Chapter 1741. I've heard from Zhan that while the dark forces have basically been wiped out by the Imperial Palace, they were still able to escape with the help of the 4 great holy techniques and the 4 great pharaohs. Yiqing Luo nodded. Although Xianxia and Zhou Xian didn't directly contact the people from the dark forces, but there should be someone who connects them. If possible, I'd like to meet the 2 of them. You were the one who captured these 2, so of course you can. The vice president nodded and said, however, these 2 people are very stubborn. We couldn't get anything out of them. Yiqing Luo smiled. Of course, the headquarters would not be able to get anything useful out of him. Xianxia and Zhou Xian were two small fries who didn't even have the chance to show their faces in the dark faction. No matter what he asked, he couldn't get anything out of him. The reason why Xianxia and Zhou Xian were placed in the hands of the headquarters was because of the Imperial Academy. He just wanted to borrow the power of the headquarters. He destroyed everything that Xianxia and Zhou Xian had. For example, Xianxia's good reputation for many years. For example, the Z family. The news of Xianxia colluding with the dark forces spread throughout the Nirvana realm. In the Nirvana realm, what other forces could tolerate the existence of the Z clan? As for Zhou Xian, he was just a clown cannon fodder. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as her eyes flashed with a sliver of movement. It's not important whether he can get anything useful out of him, just treat it as meeting an old friend. There was a chill in her words. The principal and vice principal were both experienced people, so how would they not be able to tell the deep meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words? As for the private grudges between the students, unless lives were lost, they would not interfere. Moreover, Yiqing Luo's target was someone who deserved to die. They could only turn a blind eye to it. The principal and vice principal exchanged some conventional greetings with Yiqing Luo. Eventually, on seeing that the sky was getting dark, he said that he would send someone tomorrow to personally send Yiqing Luo to the underground prison and got up to leave. Long Yunzhan and the others received the news of the arrival of the deans. Seeing the dignified and complicated expressions on the principal and vice principal's faces, and the fact that they were locked in the room, they talked for about an hour. They were all extremely curious. Yiqing Luo simply told him about the transaction between her and the vice principal. Everyone finally understood the meaning behind the expressions of the principal and vice principal before they left. If it was them, their faces would probably be even uglier. Yiqing Luo was totally taking advantage of the situation to plunder. Bringing along an unknown the world group to enter the headquarters, and even enjoying the benefits of being the successor of the headquarters. Such conditions. Under the heavens, only a pervert like Yiqing Luo could say that out in a serious manner. The devil class students suddenly recalled what Xianxia had told them before. Xianxia said, "Your boss has already worked hard enough. There are many things that she can solve by herself. If she doesn't have to trouble her, she should try not to bother her and give her more time to rest. If you really have something you can't solve, you can also discuss it with me. I am Xiao Yi's fiancé and I will definitely do my best to help you." Thinking of this, the devil class students felt that it was better to disperse and return to their rooms to wash up and sleep. Entering the general hospital sounded impressive, but he didn't want to cause trouble for boss. However, when the students walked out of the room, the girl lying on the bed behind him had a confident smile on her face. Her eyes were resplendent like the stars, embellishing with eye-catching brilliance. "Don't worry, in less than 5 days the director will agree to my conditions." Chapter 1742. The hearts of the devil class's students inexplicably trembled violently. That's right, their boss would never do something he wasn't confident in. Since she made this request, there must be a way to get the headquarters to agree. When did it start? They actually started to doubt Yiqing Luo's ability. Using the excuse of not wanting to trouble Yiqing Luo and not relying on her anymore, devil class's students turned their heads back and saw the beautiful young lady on the bed, giving them a determined smile. His smile was like light, able to infect everything in the world. Instinctively, they couldn't help but raise the corners of their mouths, revealing clean smiles. "Yes, Boss Qing Luo, we believe you." At night, the night wind was slightly chilly. Yiqing Luo was in a daze when she felt a cool breeze caressing her face as her body floated lightly. After realizing something, she suddenly opened her eyes. However, he was faced with a peerless and stunning face. There were a few strands of stubble on his smooth jaw. "Ah Xian!" Yiqing Luo called out happily. Damo Xian did not respond to her. He just lowered his eyes and looked at her deeply. Then he raised his head and continued on his way. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she sensed Damo Xian suppressing his anger. She pursed her pink lips, unable to guess Damo Xian's thoughts. At this moment she suddenly discovered that she was being carried in Damo Xian's arms, running wildly in the night. Where was Zhou Xian taking her? Yiqing Luo looked at the surroundings in puzzlement. It was surrounded by a lush forest that was green in color. Damo Xian did not ride on Little Nine. Just like that, he used his lightness skill and carried her to travel through the forest. Sensing that Diamo Xian was angry, Yiqing Luo didn't dare to open her mouth to ask and obediently nestled in his arms like a well-behaved little woman. Under the moonlight, his figure was as fast as lightning. His black hair fluttered in the wind and a few strands fell on her face. Yiqing Luo felt itchy, but she couldn't free herself to grab that strand of black hair. She twisted her little face, trying to move his ink-black hair away. The strong wind blew, making his black hair stick even tighter. The more he struggled, the more itchy his face felt. Diamo Xian, this girl was really sent by the heavens to torture him. As smart as she was, couldn't she sense that he was angry? She even dared to rub against his chest like this? Could it be Lil Luo, or was planning to use this method to please him? This thought brushed past his mind, but was quickly rejected by Diamo Xian. His Lil Luo was too careless in this aspect, and would never think of such a coquettish way to please him. He was still using his dark force and hurrying on with his journey. His beloved woman kept rubbing against his chest, moving her hands up and down. Diamo Xian's arm tightened and stopped Yiqing Luo's teasing actions. Then he increased his speed and flew away. Yiqing Luo struggled a few times but was unable to break free from Diamo Xian's restraint. She could only give up struggling and nestled in Diamo Xian's arms, allowing him to abduct her. Anyway, they were all his men now. He could take her wherever he wanted. When the husband sings, the wife follows. She did not know how long she had been carried by Diamo Xian. By the time Yiqing Luo's feet touched the ground, she opened her sleepy eyes. In the next instant, her eyes widened in shock. She struggled free from Diamo Xian's embrace and jogged a few steps forward. Perhaps it was because she had nestled in Diamo Xian's arms for too long. The moment she ran, her legs suddenly felt weak as she fell down softly. There wasn't a panicky expression on her face as she smiled and let her body fall into a warm embrace. Chapter 1743. Yiqing Luo knew that Diamo Xian would definitely catch her. Falling into Diamo Xian's arms, Yiqing Luo smiled as she turned around. As usual, she put her arms around Diamo Xian's neck. But this time it was different from the past. In the past, she would automatically throw herself into his arms. It was inevitable that the man would turn from guest to host. But her body had yet to get close to Diamo Xian's chest. Her shoulders had already been pushed away by Diamo Xian's warm large palm. His slender fingers were tightly clasped on her slender shoulders. The white uniform started to wrinkle under his fingertips. Yiqing Luo was stunned as her eyelashes fluttered as she raised her eyes to look at him. But she saw that shimmering peach blossom eyes, flashing with an extremely chilly glint. It was obvious that it was filled with rage and a few hints of coldness. Yiqing Luo was frightened by this gaze as her little face turned slightly pale as her pink lips pursed tightly. "What are you doing?" He was angry with her. She hadn't blamed him for leaving without saying goodbye. She hadn't blamed him for not staying by her side for a while longer and not waiting for her to wake up before leaving. Now he was rubbing his nose in her eyes. "Yiqing Luo, I only want to ask you one thing." Diamo Xian's voice was tense, filled with reprimand and suppressed anger. He called her by her full name. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened as her stubborn and unresigned eyes suddenly turned into panic and helplessness. She looked at his icy cold gaze in a daze as she bit her lower lip tightly. "Do you even put me in your heart?" Diamo Xian looked at her as he asked word by word. "I." Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she hurriedly spat out the words. But after spitting out the first word, the rest of the words were stuck in her throat. He was indeed angry. And indeed he should be angry. If it was her. Diamo Xian carried her on his back to do some dangerous things. Especially when she was brought back on her last breath. She would definitely fly into a rage. She knew it when she was in the dark sacred region. When she woke up, Diamo Xian would definitely fly into a rage and use his own method to punish her. But when she woke up, Diamo Xian had already left. Although she was unhappy, she also felt relieved. Unexpectedly, he still couldn't escape this calamity. "You obviously know that I'm here, but you pretend to be manipulated by the dark forces and left with the dark forces." Diamo Xian's voice was very soft, so soft that it sounded ethereal. But when it fell into Yiqing Luo's ears, it made her entire body turn cold. "Where do you put me? Where would they put everyone? Or could it be that, from the beginning to the end, in your heart I'm simply a dispensable existence?" Diamo Xian's voice turned increasingly icy cold. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and wanted to explain, but she didn't know how to explain. Provoked by Damo Xian's indifferent attitude, her eyes turned slightly red and there was even a sour feeling coming from her nose. She endured and clenched her fists. Her smooth nails pricked her own skin. She never shed tears easily and she never felt sad easily. But standing before Damo Xian, these simple words made her want to cry. This was indeed her fault. She was too stubborn and overestimated her abilities. Damo Xian reprimanded her because he was worried about her. However, she was unable to suppress the sourness in her nose. Why do you always act on your own? Why do you always put yourself in danger? Do you know that based on your current ability, if you enter the dark forces alone, as long as they discover that you're not controlled by Tao Wu, you won't be able to escape from the dark forces? Chapter 1744. If I came any later. If I came any later. When Damo Xian said this, his voice was already trembling slightly. His body was also trembling slightly. The following words he was unable to say it out, unable to imagine. Unable to imagine the life after losing Yiqing Luo. Unable to imagine that scene. Insufferably arrogant, disdainful man. Since when was he afraid of anything? What was the fruit of worry? But today he was so worried for her in front of her. Yiqing Luo's tears on seeing Damo Xian's trembling body finally couldn't hold it in any longer as it rolled down from her eyes. He cared about her. She deeply felt it. She had never doubted that this man loved her heart. But at this moment she deeply felt that this man especially loved her heart. Yiqing Luo pounced into his arms. Her hands tightly wrapped around his firm waist. Her face was plastered on his chest. Tears, drop by drop, wet his luxurious robe. I'm sorry. Xian, I'm sorry. She choked as she kept apologizing. I didn't take into consideration your feelings. I was self-righteous, thinking that my plan was foolproof. I overestimated my own ability. Xian, I didn't mean to make you worry. She hugged him tightly as her lashes were wet from her tears. Damo Xian's body stiffened slightly the moment he felt his clothes being soaked. His eyes flashed past a glint of heartache. He raised his hand, hugging the young lady in his arms as he sighed softly. He didn't really want to blame her. Nor did he want to scare her. But this lass. If he didn't use this method, she wouldn't be able to realize how worried he was when she put herself in danger. He could let Yiqing Luo have her own space to grow. But this space must be within the boundary that he knew. If it wasn't for the 60% safety rate and above, how could he bear to let Yiqing Luo take the risk? Xian. I'm sorry. I was only thinking of activating the connection between the Profound Phoenix Ring and the Profound Dragon Ring on the way to the Dark Forces main camp. If I go to the Dark Forces main camp, you will be able to find the Dark Forces location through the Profound Dragon Ring. When we entered the Sanctuary of Darkness, I also transmitted the scene of Pharaoh He's hand seals to you through the Profound Phoenix Ring. I thought that everything would develop according to my expectations until you came to save me. However, I miscalculated that the King of Darkness consciousness would form a physical body due to his rage. Yiqing Luo choked on her sobs as she explained intermittently. That little sobbing voice fell into Damo Xian's ears and it was like a fine silver needle, pricking his heart. The teardrops that fell on his chest were also heavy. He couldn't bear for her to cry, couldn't bear for her to shed tears. In the end, Damo Xian calmed himself down and softened his tone. His arms tightened around her, holding her tightly in his embrace. His inky peach blossom eyes were surging with thick black ink, spreading out at the bottom of his eyes. I know all of this. Yes. He knew all about Yiqing Luo's plans. Yiqing Luo was willing to rely on him, and when she was in danger, she firmly believed that he would rush over in time. He was very happy. However, this trust was built on danger. But he couldn't feel happy at all. Just like what he said earlier, what if he was a step late? Not only would he let down Yiqing Luo's trust in him. Chapter 1745. There won't be a next time. Yiqing Luo raised her head as her teary eyes gazed deeply into Damo Xian's eyes. Damo Xian looked at the teary young lady and finally couldn't bear to say any harsh words. His slender fingers gently brushed against the hair on her forehead. His rosy red thin lips were imprinted on her forehead. The man's peerless looks were magnified at such a close distance. Yiqing Luo's face was tainted with a shade of crimson. The moonlight shone down. The man was peerless. The lady was devastatingly beautiful. No matter how one looked, it was an enviable and beautiful picture. Of course. If it wasn't for Zhou Xian who spoiled the mood, Yiqing Luo would also feel that this moment was perfect. Zhou Xian's kiss landed on Yiqing Luo's forehead. The man's deep and mellow voice seeped into her ears. If there's a next time, this lord will punish you till you can't get off the bed. Let's see how you're going to wander around outside making me worried. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with rejection. But due to the overlord's imposing manner, she admitted defeat and just rejected him in her heart. The injuries on your body are almost healed. Zhou Xian took her pulse. Yiqing Luo nodded. Don't doubt Ghost Doctor's medical skills. The injuries on my body are almost healed. After taking her pulse, Zhou Xian held her hands in his palm. It's not Ghost Doctor's medical skills, but the change in your physique. Yiqing Luo was at a loss. This time the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade had a reaction on your body, but it's not entirely a bad thing. Your body's physique. After going through the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade's transformation, the external injuries on your body will heal in the shortest time possible. Zhou Xian explained in a warm voice as he looked at the young lady's sparkling eyes in his arms. His eyes were filled with warmth. Yiqing Luo nodded her head thoughtfully. No wonder she was still bewildered. She had suffered such serious injuries in the hands of the King of Darkness. There were at least hundreds of big and small injuries. But in just a few days, more than half of the injuries on her body had disappeared. Not even a single scar was left. Now on her body, there were only a few more serious injuries on her shoulder, chest and waist which were still recovering. Since you admitted your mistakes so obediently today, I will reward you well. Zhou Xian held Yiqing Luo's little hand. The other hand pointed to a place not far ahead. That is the spirit spring. Wash yourself clean first. Why did he feel that there was something strange about this sentence? Reward? Clean up? Could the reward be wash it and eat it? Yiqing Luo admitted that at this very moment, her heart had already been tainted with the color of filth. Zhou Xian looked at her blushing little face and his eyes darkened as he leaned close to her ear and his hoarse voice contained some sort of emotion. Lil Luo, are you doing this? Are seducing me? Yiqing Luo's ears felt warm. Her delicate body suddenly trembled. Her body went limp and she fell into Zhou Xian's arms. Her little face was red with embarrassment. How did I seduce you? You're the one who conspired against me, yet you're pushing the blame to me. Although I really want to follow your heart and do what you want me to do to you. Before he could finish his words, Yiqing Luo had already flown into a rage out of embarrassment as she raised her fist and punched towards his face. A fist was stuck on Zhou Xian's thin lips. She bellowed in embarrassment and anger. What follow my heart? I don't wish for you to do that kind of thing to me. Zhou Xian's eyes were filled with smiles. His soft tongue suddenly stuck out as it swept past every single one of her fingers. Chapter 1746. I didn't say anything. Why are you in such a hurry to deny it? Zhou Xian's eyes were smiling. Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned redder. Seriously acting like a hooligan, she was convinced by Zhou Xian. He only knew how to tease her, tease her, tease her. Tease her pink bubbles all over the place. One day she would fight back and make Zhou Xian blush. She flew into a rage out of humiliation. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pushed Zhou Xian away. I'm going to soak in the spirit spring. Saying that, she rushed to the spirit spring not far ahead. When she arrived at the spirit spring, she was shocked by the spirit spring. This was a high mountain. The surrounding mountains towered into the clouds, forming a natural spirit spring. The surface of the spirit spring was surrounded by a thin layer of mist. The mist swirled and rolled. Feeling the warm breath from the spirit spring, Yiqing Luo's eyes revealed a look of surprise. She couldn't wait to jump into the spirit spring and wash off all the sweat on her body. But with this rush, she once again fell back weakly. Once again she fell into Zhou Xian's arms. She blinked her eyes, a little embarrassed. My legs are a little uncomfortable. I'll help you wash them. The man's low voice was like a cool breeze. The next moment Yiqing Luo's body was light. She was already in Zhou Xian's arms. Yiqing Luo instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck. From this angle, Zhou Xian's peerless face under the moonlight looked even more extraordinary. like a banished immortal. Especially that pair of peach blossom eyes, projecting the afterglow of the moonlight, made him look extremely evil. Even Yiqing Luo lost her soul under the bewilderment of this face. Do I look good? Diamo Xian's rosy lips curved slightly, smiling extremely seductively. Yiqing Luo's eyes almost fell on Diamo Xian. Ah Xian, I'm telling you, I'll sleep you to death like this. Sleep? Diamo Xian's smile became even more evil. Okay, I'll let you sleep. Yiqing Luo admitted defeat. She shouldn't threaten a beast like this. Diamo Xian carried her and walked slowly to the spirit spring. He bent down and was about to step into the spirit spring. Yiqing Luo's little hand grabbed his arm anxiously. Wait a minute. Diamo Xian stopped in his tracks, his long and narrow peach blossom eyes outlined a devilish curve. He said nothing. He looked at her silently with such a gaze. It was enough to make Yiqing Luo's cheeks flush red. She forced herself not to be seduced by the handsome man. Let yourself drown in the spiritual spring? Diamo Xian interrupted her words. His tone was firm and unquestionable. You're not well, I won't touch you. Yiqing Luo blushed. She was not worried that Diamo Xian would make a move on her. She was afraid, with his help she wouldn't be able to hold herself back. This was a living devil and he was flirting with her in all kinds of ways, seducing her. How could she hold herself back? Are you going to wash or not? Diamo Xian Tao's eyes were glistening and dazzling, smiling devilishly. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists, closed her eyes and gritted her teeth. Wash. Ah Xian is bathing me, why shouldn't I bathe? If she couldn't hold herself back, then she couldn't. It wasn't like she hadn't slept with Diamo Xian before. At most she would sleep with him again. He could even have a spirit spring play. But this decision after entering the water, Yiqing Luo regretted it. She knew that Diamo Xian was a devil. But she didn't know that Diamo Xian would be such a devil after entering the water. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone like a wolf, staring at Diamo Xian without blinking. She couldn't hold it anymore. What to do? She really wanted to forcefully sleep with Diamo Xian. What to do? Chapter 1747. Lil Luo, are your eyes? Diamo Xian's low chuckle came into her ears. He leaned over and whispered in her ear, like, you want to sleep with me very much. As he leaned over, his wet robe immediately opened up, revealing his strong and fair chest. The moonlight poured down. It was still tempting her to pounce forward and bite him. The wolf in Yiqing Luo's eyes was even more intense. The blood in her chest was boiling. She gritted her teeth and with her eyes she glared fiercely at Mystic Fairy Diamo. Yes. I can't wait to sleep with you now. Her body had already been steadily placed into the spirit spring. The warm spring water soaked her whole body. Yiqing Luo's tensed-up emotions at this instant suddenly relaxed. She leaned softly in Diamo Xian's arms, closed her eyes and gave a comfortable sigh. Diamo Xian deliberately suppressed his voice, like a feather, constantly teasing Yiqing Luo's heart. Then you can only think about it. Think about what? Yiqing Luo's throat rolled as she turned to look at Diamo Xian blankly. When she met that pair of peach blossom eyes that were filled with ridicule, she suddenly reacted. She said, she couldn't wait to sleep with Diamo Xian. He said, can only think about it? Ha ha ha. Now you're teasing me with great enthusiasm. Damn, don't beg to climb into my bed in the future. Don't beg me to sleep with you. Yiqing Luo snorted, arrogantly turned her head and wholeheartedly soaked in the bath. Too lazy to care about this narcissistic man. When she put all her attention on herself, Yiqing Luo's originally blushing face became even redder. Previously she was red because of Diamo Xian's teasing. Now she was red because she was embarrassed by herself. Since her body was submerged in the spirit spring. With her as the center, the surface of the water was filled with circles of black sewage. Yes, it was sewage. Around her body, the originally clear spirit spring had turned into black sewage. What was going on? As if feeling the change in Yiqing Luo's mood, Diamo Xian raised his hand, his slender fingers, flicked lightly on the surface of the water. The dirty water instantly dissipated. There was a clear spirit spring with smoke curling up from it. Yiqing Luo had yet to say a word. In the next moment the clear spring water turned dirty again. However, compared to the filth just now, it was obviously a little cleaner now. Yiqing Luo. Why did it feel like it was even more of a blow? Just how dirty was she? Only then could the spirit spring become dirty water? You haven't touched water since you fainted. Diamo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's distressed look as though she had suffered a huge blow, and his shimmering peach blossom eyes flashed past a warm smile. These few days, Ghost Doctor has treated you, and with the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade improving your physique, the toxins and undesirable factors in your body have all been expelled. Yiqing Luo. He hadn't bathed for a few days, and he had even expelled a large amount of toxins and undesirable factors from his body. It was no wonder that the spirit spring was polluted. At this moment Yiqing Luo was also aware of the fishy stench on her body, how thick and how intoxicating it was. After waking up she had already gotten used to the smell on her body, so she didn't feel much about it. Now that he was soaking in the spirit spring, the smell was even more distinct and seeping into his nose. She was actually so smelly? She was about to faint from the stench. No wonder when the vice president entered her room, his face revealed such a strange expression. Chapter 1748. Yiqing Luo expressed that under such a smelly situation, Diamo Xian could still carry her and fly for several hours without any change in his expression. How on earth did he endure this stench? A certain man had completely guessed Yiqing Luo's thoughts. He leaned over and rested his chin on her delicate shoulder as he whispered in her ear, "Because it's you." Damn it. Flirting with her again. The pink bubbles were boiling again. Yiqing Luo blushed and sank her body into the water. The splashing water splashed onto Diamo Xian. These 4 words could really poke her little heart. Now her heart was thumping non-stop and couldn't slow down at all. Yiqing Luo threw herself into the water. Her body couldn't bear the force and almost fell into the spirit spring. Diamo Xian's eyes and hands were sharp as he stretched out his hand to catch her waist. Yiqing Luo's delicate body was stuck to his hard and hot chest. Both of their clothes were completely soaked. Her delicate body was stuck to him as if she wasn't wearing any clothes. You can stay aside, I can do it myself. Yiqing Luo's delicate body was stiff and didn't dare to lean into his arms. The spirit spring was slightly hot. But that boiling hot chest was burning her skin. Diamo Xian tightened his arms and raised his brows slightly. Do you really want to drown? The white mist curled up and his voice sounded a little empty. Yiqing Luo thought of herself. It seemed that her legs were indeed weak. If Diamo Xian wasn't supporting her from behind, she might really drown. She was afraid that she couldn't control herself. If not, she couldn't bear the stench. The expression on Yiqing Luo's face kept changing. Diamo Xian's smile became more and more intense. Circling Yiqing Luo's waist, his other hand pressed her head onto his chest. Immediately he scooped up a handful of water and wet her hair. His slender fingers gently ran through her hair and rubbed her scalp. His fingertips gently rubbed her scalp. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the gentle strength of his fingertips. He was washing her hair. Yiqing Luo slowly closed her eyes as her lips curled into a blissful smile. After a short while, Diamo Xian began to clean the honey locust in her hair. The warm water soaked through her hair and slid into their clothes that clung tightly to their bodies. Yiqing Luo's face leaned against his chest. She could clearly feel the scorching heat coming from his chest. The temperature was even hotter than when she was in his arms. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly as a trace of craftiness flashed past her eyes. It seemed like she wasn't the only one who couldn't control herself. Didn't this sanctimonious man who had been acting like a hooligan with a straight face from the beginning also have a reaction? What a hypocrite. Yiqing Luo spat out these 3 words in her heart as the arc on her lips deepened. She wanted to see how long Diamo Xian could endure for. Following that, Yiqing Luo's curved brows revealed a trace of teasing. Xian, since we've entered the water together, why not? Let's have a bath together." The fingers that were washing her hair suddenly paused. Yiqing Luo smiled even more coquettishly. Xian, don't be shy, it's not like I haven't seen your body before. Don't be shy, how unrestrained you can be. The hand that was washing her hair moved again. It continued to gently wash the honey locust in her hair. He was washing extremely seriously. Almost every strand of hair was brushed past. After Yiqing Luo teased a few words, she didn't get any response from Diamo Xian. After being high for a long time, it became boring. She simply shut her mouth. Chapter 1749. The warm water covered every inch of her skin. Her hands were pressed against the stone cliff in front of her. The stone cliff was extremely smooth and didn't burn her hands. Before Yiqing Luo could react, she heard the sound of water splashing beside her ear. The water splashed and the droplets of water hit her body. Yiqing Luo steadied herself and was curious about what Zhou Xian wanted to do. Turning her head, Yiqing Luo almost spurted out a fountain of blood from her nose. Her eyes widened as she stared at Zhou Xian without blinking. She was practically glued to his body. At this moment, Zhou Xian stood facing the moonlight. His black hair crown had long been untied and gently stuck to his body. That peerless, demonic and enchanting face was covered by the water droplets. Yiqing Luo's heart was thumping non-stop. She couldn't wait to pounce forward and lick that water droplet into her mouth. What made Yiqing Luo's heart beat faster was the wet purple robe that stuck to his body. The outline of his muscular body was extremely clear. His waist and abdomen were tight with smooth muscle lines. Under the moonlight it was clear to the eye. In particular, the moonlight made his skin look extremely fair, adding an unconcealable charm. This evildoer, bewitching to the extreme. So bewitching that no one could resist such temptation. Yiqing Luo thought that her current look must be like a hungry animal who had been starved for countless days. She couldn't hide the wolf's glint in her eyes even if she wanted to. Yiqing Luo swallowed her saliva and forcibly used her willpower to tell herself to calm down and not to pounce on a handsome man. At least before Zhou Xian gave in, she had to be reserved. However, at this moment, some evildoer seemed to want to challenge Yiqing Luo's endurance. His slender fingers touched the belt of his robe. With a gentle tug, the purple robe slipped into the water. Following that was his underwear. After that, his unconcealed muscular body was revealed in front of Yiqing Luo's eyes. The taut string in Yiqing Luo's brain snapped with a gotcha sound. If*****. This was too against the rules. You can't use the seduction in this way. Yiqing Luo was already in a daze. Her line of sight followed that tensile line inch by inch down, below. Why are they all blocked by the water? Little Luo, come here. Zhou Xian's bewitching voice was extremely magnetic. He raised his hand and waved towards Yiqing Luo. Water droplets slid down his taut muscles. Yiqing Luo swallowed a mouthful of saliva as she was unable to control her own body as she walked towards Zhou Xian's direction, step by step. Just as he took a step, Yiqing Luo's body went limp as she fell forward. Her lips landed on a piece of burning skin. The feeling of the light abyss fruit's muscles scorched Yiqing Luo's lips. She blushed and pushed him away. What are you doing? Didn't you say you wouldn't let me sleep? Why are you taking off your clothes? Zhou Xian tightened his arms and supported her body while his other hand started to undress her. Yiqing Luo shuddered. You even took off my clothes. Do you bathe with your clothes on? Zhou Xian forcefully grabbed her arm, raising his eyebrows to tease her. Alright, she did have to take off her clothes to bathe. But, in this atmosphere, a man and a woman taking off their clothes seemed a little strange. Wasn't he unable to control himself? The moment he took off his clothes, wouldn't he be unable to control himself even more? Raise your hand. Zhou Xian's low voice was ethereal and pleasant to the ears, teasing Yiqing Luo's heartstrings. Chapter 1750. Zhou Xian tore off the wet clothes that stuck to his body. A gentle breeze blew and her delicate body, which was covered in water droplets, trembled slightly in the wind. Yiqing Luo suddenly sobered up. Her eyes, which had been bewitched by his charm, regained their clarity. She lowered her head and looked at her almost naked body. With a splash, he buried himself in the spirit spring. The splashing water splashed on the two of them. The gravity of being buried in the water made Yiqing Luo's body instinctively fall forward. Yiqing Luo immediately stretched out her hand and hugged onto Zhou Xian's tight waist as she buried her entire head. Yiqing Luo's face bumped into the spot 3 inches below Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's body suddenly stiffened. Yiqing Luo only felt that her face had bumped against an extremely hard object, causing her to grimace in pain as she struggled to get up from Zhou Xian's arms. Fortunately, her face was real. Otherwise, I'll have to get a new one if I get hit in any minute. She flopped. The man who caught her firmly tensed up. Even in the water, Yiqing Luo could feel that the temperature on Zhou Xian's body was gradually rising. The next moment her body was grabbed by Zhou Xian's broad palm. She was pressed into his arms. Two naked bodies touched skin to skin. The scorching temperature was like balls of blazing flames, burning between the two of them. Yiqing Luo's delicate body stiffened. He couldn't hold it in anymore? Didn't he say he wouldn't touch her? Don't tell me. Don't tell me I'm really going to use the spirit spring play? Oh Lulu. She refused. Last time it was such a good start, process and end. But she was practically hovering between life and death. This time at the spirit spring. She would definitely be hovering between life and death. Although she really wanted to sleep Zhou Xian till he was hovering between life and death, but right now, this kind of wild fun absolutely could not happen. Yiqing Luo had not thought of what to say to dispel Zhou Xian's idea. Zhou Xian bent over and gave a low laugh. Lulu, can't wait to swallow me into his stomach? Faster see. Was there a need to be so shameless? He was obviously the one who couldn't control himself now. How could he push the blame to such a pure girl like her? Do you know, where did you hit me with your face earlier? Zhou Xian whispered again, bewitching her. When he bent down, his black hair, which was stained with water droplets, accidentally landed on her bare back and rubbed against her skin. As he spoke, his thin lips purposely brushed past her earlobe. A two-pronged approach. Yiqing Luo's breathing grew heavier. After much difficulty digesting Zhou Xian's question, she panted and tried to maintain her consciousness. I haven't said anything about you. Why are your muscles so hard? If my beautiful face is damaged, you can afford it. He didn't even have the time to shout out the last word. Yiqing Luo seemed to have thought of something. His entire face instantly turned the color of pig liver. She just bumped into, could it be a man's thing? Yiqing Luo lowered her head in a probing manner. But the mist of the spiritual spring was too hazy, she couldn't see it. She could only lift her head up weakly and looked at Zhou Xian's eyes with some uncertainty. Cough, did I bump into something that shouldn't be? Bumped into something? Yiqing Luo said the last three words very carefully. However, Zhou Xian only looked at her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. That mischievous charm in his eyes couldn't be concealed at all. Their eyes met and after a moment he raised his brows frivolously. Chapter 1751. Yiqing Luo. Recalling the hardness earlier, she seemed to have really gotten into trouble. Lil Luo, do you still remember what I said earlier? Looking at Yiqing Luo's embarrassed look, Zhou Xian's eyes were filled with ridicule. Yiqing Luo's mind was buzzing as she didn't dare to raise her head. You're in charge of stirring up the fire, so you should be in charge of extinguishing it. His voice suddenly got nearer. His warm breath was exhaled into her ears. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as her eyelashes were stained with a thin layer of moisture. This fellow's method of teasing her was getting more and more adept. He totally knew how to tease her, making her unable to resist at all. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red in embarrassment as she gritted her teeth and stared at him. But the man's bewitching expression had stirred her little heart. That peerless face, the contour was deep and devilish, rosy red lips, light and soft, outlined an evil smirk. It was this smirk which made him appear even more seductive. His peach blossom eyes were deep and dark, like the twinkling stars in the sky, extremely dazzling. Her breathing was slightly heavier as she panted lightly. Her body was also softening as she leaned tightly into Zhou Xian's arms. Her consciousness was pulling away. She couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't hold on any longer. She wanted to pounce on this evildoer. Then sleep with him, sleep with him, sleep with him. Zhou Xian looked at her pair of wolf's eyes as his eyes overflowed with smiles. He tightened his arms and pressed Yiqing Luo's body down. Yiqing Luo's back, pressed against the icy cold stone. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly and subconsciously, the man's scorching body had already covered her. A warm kiss landed on her lips. The rich male hormone scent made Yiqing Luo's eyes filled with a layer of haziness. Previously she was still reserved and wanted to reject him. After this kiss she was completely unrestrained. All right, this was her evildoer. If you want to play in a hot spring, then play in a hot spring. At most she would lie on the bed for another day tomorrow to recuperate. Just as Yiqing Luo stretched out her arms, taking the initiative to hug the man's body. Zhou Xian suddenly released her lips as he slowly straightened his body. Before Yiqing Luo could react, Zhou Xian had already pulled her along and spun one round. Her back was facing Zhou Xian. The man's slender fingers began to gently wipe her body. Wait a minute, what the hell was going on? Wasn't he ready to play? All of a sudden Xian was helping her bathe. What was going on? While Yiqing Luo was still puzzled, she suddenly felt her acupuncture points tighten. She immediately let out a moan of comfort. That voice sounded a little shameful no matter how one listened to it. Xian actually. He was actually massaging her acupoints again. It was also commonly known as a massage. Yiqing Luo was terrified to let an overlord serve her like this. Before he could stop it, Xian increased the strength in his hand. Yiqing Luo sprawled onto Zhou Xian. Xian's fingers seemed to have magical powers. Wherever it went, it made her feel relaxed. The soreness from lying on the bed for a few days without moving also disappeared in an instant. Soaking in the hot spring, there was even a massage. This comfortable feeling made Yiqing Luo unable to open her mouth to reject Xian's service. Not knowing how long had passed, Yiqing Luo was already drowsy. Her body suddenly felt light. Yiqing Luo opened her misty eyes in shock. She met with a pair of glass-like peach blossom eyes. That pair of eyes seemed to condense a whirlpool. Her heart and soul were deeply captivated. Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment. Tightly she reacted.